This week, I need to sharpen some drill bits, so I need a jig to do that. Now, I have 2 buckets full of drill bits. These I got at an auction for like 60 bucks, both buckets full. And they come with some chucks and everything. And most of these are so dull that they are not even usable. It came from an old machine shop. I'm sure most of the guys probably just sharpen them by hand. So I want to make a jig to where I can sharpen my regular drill bits and these. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, I'm sure you've seen this. This is just a 2x42 Craftsman belt sander. Now, I've had this thing for a lot of years. I had to redo the plenum in it, so it's actually flat against the back. I talked about that in one of my videos. But so this is all solid. So whenever the belt hits, it's against steel. There's an angle iron behind it. But I want to set up the jig to use here because I can adjust this for my angle down if I want to, or I can come straight in with the bits. So I'm going to have an offset piece of angle this way to cut my cutting edge for the bits, and then a plate to ride against the front of this. Okay, so I have one of my relatively bigger bits. So I'm just going to guess and say that I want to be back just a fuzz because I'm going to cut the angle out here on the end. So I really don't need the entire thing. So let's try to get a halfway even measurement for this. Let's just say 6 inches out here on the back. And then what does that leave us out front? It leaves 7.5 roughly. So that will be plenty. This will be what actually carries the bit up to the sander. This end here will be on the back side to act as a guide so I can sweep back and forth. Okay, so a typical drill bit is 118 degrees out on the tip. So if you stuck a drill bit right here, it would line up mainly about perfect, for steel anyways. So it's real close to fitting in there. So I need to cut this piece of angle that will go against the belt sander to where it matches. So I have a line right here. That's going to give me the right angle, essentially. I mean, I'm going to have to probably sand it a little bit, but I'm going to cut across here to get my angle set up, and then I can get set up to start clamping this together to weld it into place. Okay, well, this thing is not perfect, but it is close. But I do need to double check my angle. So I do want this thing dead on. Alright, I had to modify this a little bit. I had to weld 2 little tabs on here, and that's just to keep this thing from walking. And so I think that I'm ready to try out a bit. So I have this one, which I know is very dull. I don't know if it'll focus on that. That thing is terrible. I actually tried using this the other day, and it didn't go very well. So I'm going to line everything up and then just give it some passes to try to get that squared up. Now, since I have it set up like this, I need to watch where my bevel's sitting. Make sure it doesn't walk on me, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, so the tip is very sharp now. It's looking very good, but the problem is that I still have a high back. So this thing's not going to cut nothing because the cutting edge can't get to it. So I think that my idea with this originally was to kick this plate down, and then it gets a bit looking up, and then it grinds all of this at once. So I'm going to try that. Okay, I've thought about this a little bit more. I've clamped that jig down, so that should keep everything from moving, and I can just control the bit itself. Now the drill that I use is an old Delta Rockwell that I paid $55 for, and this thing is extremely heavy. It works really good though. Everything still works perfect. Keep it oiled up, the light still works on it. But this is the primary drill that I use. Now I can remove the head and run those, I guess call it a drill bit into this, and that's what I've been doing whenever I need a bigger drill bit. So let's try that one out. All right, I'm going to try to run this into just mild steel. This is probably like 1/8 inch or something, but it has no pilot hole, and I have no oil for this bit. Now, it did okay, way better than it was, but my shavings were getting hot there towards the end. Obviously, I have no lubrication with this bit, but it did leave a very nice hole in there, and before, this thing did horrible. So, I think that I'm on the right track. I probably just need to spend a little bit more time with it and see where it goes. So what I have figured out is that if I set my jig up and then I run my bit up and then watch the back of it, whenever I get this all squared up to where my cutting edge is tight, it should roll the back side of the bit down to where everything works right. The only thing you have to worry about is keeping the center of your bit still center. So it makes beautiful cuts on the side of that. Got to watch heat, so just make sure you keep your bits cooled off. But other than this saved me a lot of time. I don't have to hand sharpen anything, and I don't need to freehand the back side once I have this plane set up this way. I don't know what angle this is, I didn't check it. But like I said, once the jig is pressed in and you set your flat cutting edge parallel with your, or perpendicular to your belt, it lines up with the back facet. So it curls your bit down. But it beats freehanding these because I always screw up my angle, and then I never have this point ever the same again. As a little bit of an overview, I'm set to 118 degrees. So that's how I set up this line. I just used a piece of soapstone to mark that so I could line up this angle. And this thing is no engineering marvel, but it's just got 2 pieces of angle with a little bit of tabs just to hold it down to keep this thing from walking like that. So everything was welded together. Now this angle is relatively close to this 118. Whenever you line it up in here, it's real close. So that's probably what it's meant to be. But as far as it goes for me, this worked perfect. I can slide my drill bit up, keep my cutting edge flat, hit the belt sander, clean up that edge, turn it 180, do it again. All you have to watch is that your tip doesn't walk away from you, get off to one side. But other than that, it was a very simple project. I put a little bit of linseed oil on it just to protect this so it doesn't rust up on my shelf. But other than that, I think it turned out perfect. Well, with a cutoff wheel, a little bit of angle, and some welding, I have a perfect jig that's going to hold up to all my drill bits that I have. I can sharpen everything, don't have to worry about sending them out or trying to freehand it on the belt sander and ruining the tip. So I think it turned out great. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you next week.